Hi everybody, it's Lori, and this week I decided to do a book review for my vlog. A book was published this week that I've been looking forward to for months. I actually heard a little while ago that it was coming out, and for me this book is more than just a piece of light reading. It's literally a trip back to my childhood. The book is called Sweet Valley Confidential by Francine Pascal. And if you are a girl or woman who was a preteen in the 80s, right now you're saying, ah! Sweet Valley High was a series of books that was published in the 80s that seemed somehow cosmically designed for girls like me, who was a preteen at that time. Well, if you've never been a preteen girl or you've forgotten what it's like to be a preteen girl, it's such an age of melodrama and grand emotion, and everything is either the height of elation or the pit of despair. There is no in between. And enter Francine Pascal and Sweet Valley High. The centerpiece of Sweet Valley High series is a pair of sisters. They're twins, Elizabeth and Jessica Wakefield, and they live in a magical place called Sweet Valley, California, where everyone is beautiful and very rich, and every situation that they encounter is very dramatic and emotional. And the trials and tribulations of Jessica Wakefield just kept me fascinated. First of all, they were teenagers, and being 11 years old, I could only dream of how amazing my life was going to be when I was finally a teenager. Sweet Valley Confidential is actually set in two places. We start in New York, following Elizabeth Wakefield, who is always the more sensible, level-headed, kind, and nurturing twin. And from the outset, we learn that she and Jessica, her twin sister, have had a terrible falling out. What could it be about? Then we flash over to Sweet Valley, where we follow Jessica, who has always been the more flirtatious and devious twin. But we find out that Jessica is actually, dun dun dun, living with Elizabeth's boyfriend, Todd Wilkins. Now, for any fan of this series, this is a dramatic bombshell because Elizabeth and Todd Wilkins were together through virtually the entire Sweet Valley High series of books. So to hear that Todd and Jessica were together, shocking. So we follow our two main characters through the story, and the questions remain: will Elizabeth and Jessica reconcile? Will Jessica and Todd really follow through with everything and get married? Will Elizabeth find love in the big city? And will we have some kind of grand reunion at the end where we get to catch up with all of the characters that we didn't talk about previously in the book? Yes, 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 and yes. As I was reading Sweet Valley Confidential, I was kind of reading it in two different minds. One mind is my 36-year-old, fairly well-read mind, evaluating the plot and the characters. And then there's also, reading with the eye of that inner 11-year-old who's just so thrilled to be reconnecting with these friends that I had cherished for so many years. So I'll give basically two reviews of the story. For the 36-year-old in me, it was a terrible book. If I didn't necessarily have this sentimental connection with this book, would I recommend it? Probably not. So for those of you who have never read any of the Sweet Valley books, you can probably skip this one. But for anyone out there who was a Sweet Valley High fan, I have to say, it was so nice to get back and catch up with the characters and see what they're doing now. And I know that I'm talking about them like they're buddies and friends, but for a while I really felt like they were. They were such a part of my life for a few years when I was trying to figure out my own way. That I really do feel like it's catching up with Friends. And Francine Pascal and her crew of however many ghostwriters participated in this really did do a great job of giving the fans what they wanted. For people who have never read the Sweet Valley High books and really don't care, save your $9.99 in your Kindle download and skip Sweet Valley Confidential. But if you've ever been connected with the Sweet Valley books like I was, it's so worth the investment. Will I ever read it again? Probably not. But it was such a great time to, kind of have that nostalgic evening of reminiscing and again, just kind of seeing where in the author's imagination all of these people ended up. So there you have it, a very long-winded book review. But again, if you were like me, a preteen or teen in the 80s, and if you read the Sweet Valley High books, please pick up Sweet Valley Confidential because it's a really quick read, but it will take you right back there, and it was a really fun trip. So there you go.